Good afternoon, Rockhounds. Today we're going to be making some Dop Wax from Douglas Fir Sap, tea lights, and white wood ash. So here are all the ingredients that you will need. I have a non-stick silpat. Really, you need to make sure you're using non-stick stuff in a lot of this because it will become a mess. You also need to be careful of flammability. So I suggest if you have a hot plate or something to do this on, absolutely do it outside no matter what, and use a hot plate. That way you don't have any exposed flame. I will not be doing that because I don't have one. So just keep that in mind. This stuff will be flammable, and we'll try to figure out a way to make it not flammable earlier in the process than later. So anyways, first thing you're going to need is this silpat, and I use a tray. You're going to want to wear maybe even leather gloves. I'm going to use these rubber or plastic gloves while I'm collecting the sap to make sure it doesn't just get all over my hands, because it's not fun to clean up. It gets in your hair and it's not fun. I'm going to use this old scrap knife that I gave up on to scrape the sap off of trees that are already wounded. These are our tea lights. I have a bunch of ocean spray. It's also called arrow wood, and people do make arrows out of it. But that was my intention, but it's also decently straight enough to use for dop sticks. I have a non-stick pan. This one's already a little bit beat up, so I'm not too worried about doing any damage to it, but it'll help get all the sap out. I have a metal fine mesh strainer. These can be really hard to clean up. You need to make sure once the Dop Wax is made, if that's what's stuck in it, it's easy to clean up. But if it's the sap itself and that's what's stuck to it, it's a nightmare. So make sure you're using a strainer that you don't care about. This one I know I can clean, so we'll be fine. And finally, a scale that we're going to need. I got this piece of wood there to represent the white wood ash that we're going to make here in a minute. So first things first, we're going to go out and find ourselves some tree sap, and we're going to get started. Sometimes you can come down to the bottom of these trees. I'm not sure this is going to do it, but see, that's a lot of sap. It's not really good stuff, but you know, you can see how much sap is in there. I'm going to keep that piece actually. Yeah, see, we're getting some good, nice big chunks out of here, and that's what we're going to focus on, just because if we don't have to do the tree any harm, we absolutely shouldn't. That's what's good for the tree. It's good for us, renewable resources, good for the planet, also good for us as well. You know what I mean? You make more money on something that keeps producing versus something you just destroy that never comes back. You got reliability and stuff like this. So I mean, this is all sap that has fallen from the tree, and it's nowhere near the wound. It's just fallen in the summertime when it was really flowing. And what's really crazy is I keep clearing stuff off here, and it seems like this tree had been bleeding for a while. Somebody tagged it up, and, you know, it's all kinds of, I don't know where the wound happened originally. Looks like right there. Almost looks like that's a growth issue. But anyways, it was bleeding down. Seems to be that it wasn't catching too much on the tree, but down underneath it, this is all, you know, you can see it moving. I thought I was in the wood, and we're actually still going, you know, sap. And it's got some dirt in it. We'll filter that off, and, you know, and a little bit of moisture that'll burn off as well. But not having to tap the tree or wait, you can just come in and peel away a little, some sap, and stuff's great. So yeah, I want to show you guys one tree. I didn't damage it, anything. It's already damaged on its own, but all I did is I came in there and I chipped away at the sap that had already fallen. It's sitting down on the ground. And it's got dirt, and it's got all kinds of crap in it, but watch. I'll show you how we do it. For our first step here, our goal is to melt this all and strain it before we add anything to it. We need a weight for this, for our amount of rosin, free of impurities. And once we have that weight, we can go ahead and figure out how much wax and white wood ash we need. You can also use calcium lime. I'm using wood ash just because it seems like, you know, this is all something you can make. The wax might be harder for you to find, but you might be able to, you know, if you got bees or a local beeswax guy, I would go and try that. Everybody's recipe is going to be a little bit different. If you get sap from a different tree, it's going to be different. I'm just using a regular tea light. I don't know the brand. It's just probably paraffin wax. I'm sure there's a different mix to it depending on who makes it, but I'm just using a regular old tea light. So, yep, this is our first step. You can see that things are melting rather nicely. They're bubbling down to the bottom. This stuff will turn dark black, brownish colored. It's actually really pretty, and it can be used for a whole bunch of different stuff. You can use it just as a fire starter like I showed. However, all of these extra bits, when those come out, I save those and I roll them in white wood ash to keep it from sticking, and then I put it in a plastic baggie and I take that hiking or out into the woods, and it's really easy to start a fire with some of that. So turned it down just a little bit. You can see I'm getting kind of hot. We're seeing some smoke and stuff. We don't want it so hot that we're just burning it at all. We want a nice kind of viscous liquid. We're just trying to melt it. So obviously some stuff's going to burn. The more that it melts and the higher the liquid gets, the less it's going to burn. But this is the idea. I'm using a non-stick spatula, something I can clean off later. Like I said, once the wax and everything else is in it, you can clean this stuff off with oil, soap, and hot water. So we're starting to get there. You can see it's slowly melting and dissolving everything in it down to the center. It'll get there. Once it's kind of all foaming, we'll go ahead and carefully strain it out onto the silpat and let it cool. Once it's mostly cool and cool enough that you can work it, you can kind of hold it and fold it and mold it and, you know, do all kinds of stuff. I'll show you that process when we're ready to go. Alright, so I think we're ready to go, and I'm just gonna simply pour it in there, put the pan off the heat, I'm just gonna let what wants to drip out right now drip out. Okay. Alright, so now I'm just using, it holds its heat for quite a while. Now I'm just using this spatula to push out all the stuff. And you can see it's almost solidifying, you know, in the air. It's making these ribbons that are flying away. You'll be able to clean it all up later. Just squeeze out what you can on the first run. And then we're going to go ahead and put it back in to our pan. We're going to heat it up, and we're going to do that process again. One last time. Second and last time.